All right, we are live here, USCFootball.com TV. We're supposed to have three of us.
Yes.
Keely Eure.
All right, we are live here.
Oh, wait, let me turn this down. I'm on my phone here.
Down to
So,
two.
we're down to two. So Keely Eure is not feeling well. I'm not feeling that well. But I'm Ryan Abraham, publisher of USCFootball.com.
I'm Chris Trevino, 24/7 Sports, now with USCFootball.com.
Yeah, so we're on the same team now. And thanks, Chris, for coming out and doing the...
I couldn't let you do it solo.
Yeah, I could have. I did it. I really just finished editing a solo podcast a few seconds ago.
But I'm not going to let you go back to back.
By myself.
Yeah.
That would have been bad. Yeah. So Chris has been kind enough to join us. Again, we hope Keely feels better. Shotgun, who usually comes to, who a couple weeks ago Chris filled in for, well, Chris was supposed to, there were supposed to be four of us, and then Shotgun overslept.
I'm sensing a pattern.
Yeah.
Where when I'm here, Shotgun.
He doesn't like you, I think, or whatever.
I'm wearing the hat in honor of Shotgun.
Which is the hat? What's the?
It's just a hat.
Okay, yeah. Shotgun does like to wear the hats. I actually saw a picture. And so Shotgun's actually in Georgia visiting his family. I saw a picture with Shotgun wearing a tie and no hat, which was kind of,
Wow.
that's kind of rare. Like you don't really see that all that often. So he does like to wear a tie with a hat. He wasn't wearing a hat. He was smiling, actually. Like, you know, it's hard. I had to find a picture of him for a credential for Notre Dame. It goes to his Facebook page. There's none like normal just pictures of Shotgun just sitting there. So this was actually a pretty good one.
I've never seen him without a hat. So if you have a picture or know a picture, I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
I don't really know about that.
I'll share it to you on Facebook. So this is what we do every week, Facebook Live. Of course, the regular season's over now, but we want to answer your questions. Normally, I'm kind of sitting in another chair, but I've pulled these up, and we'll be able to see. So any kind of comments you have, just type them into the Facebook Live deal, and we'll get them.
We'll get them answered.
We'll
try
answer
to
them. We will definitely do our best. So, Chris, this is the bye week. It's been forever. I thought it was hilarious talking to the players, and it never clicked with me. They played 12 weeks in a row, but they've never had to do that in their lives.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, from Pop Warner to high school to whatever, they've always had a break or some sort of break. So 12 weeks, grueling back-to-back, all the injuries UFC's dealt with. I've never seen players so happy to not play.
yeah, they're like, oh. And USC pretty much is taking the week off. So we're on a bye week too. I mean, obviously we're doing this.
Yeah.
Is that kind of, what do you think about that they're not really practicing at all this week? They're going to practice next week, but it's just kind of like take the week off.
Yeah, it's kind of doing a little bit of walkthroughs, just a little light stuff. I mean, I think it's kind of deserved what they've been through, 12 weeks back-to-back, all the injuries. They haven't had a chance to rest, get those, minor bumps and aches out of the way. I think it's well-deserved. I know they haven't been doing pads at all, but still, having a light week like this is going to pay dividends down the road, especially, going to the Pac-12 Championship.
I've been kind of critical, and like Dan Weber and stuff have been about like what they've been doing in practice. I kind of less of an issue, just like, you know what, take the week off. It's been a long, 3 months, 12 weeks in a row. I don't have an issue with it. But the problem is, and if you remember a couple years ago at the Holiday Bowl, they didn't practice as much. Now I get that. I think the Holiday Bowl, he really had to purge his staff and it would have been hard to prepare.
Sure.
It wouldn't have been as hard to prepare this week, but I kind of get the fact, like, you know what, give the guys a little bit of a break. If they don't play well in the championship game, though, there's going to be like...
It's going to be a talking point, like, hey, it should have been full pads go this week. No.
Yeah.
I think Thanksgiving, take a little bit of a break.
Yeah. Just the circumstances, I'm not going to, like, hold Clay's feet to the fire for this. Now, Monday, and Dan brought this up on our podcast, they haven't been in full pads for a while. I would like to see, after a week off, a full pads practice on that Monday.
That's a really good point. I mean, change it up a little bit, get them back in the pads, get the feel of being in full pads, get them going, because obviously they don't know who they're playing yet, but they need another physical game, either at Stanford or a little bit of payback with Wazoo.
Yeah. What do you think? So my kind of thoughts going into it were, I thought Washington was actually the best matchup. Now they're eliminated, even though Washington probably got the best defense and stuff. USC's lost to Washington State. They beat Stanford. I think I would, if I'm USC, I think I'd rather play Washington State. I think you got a better chance to. What do you think?
I would personally, if I was a USC player, I would want Wazoo. I want the payback. I want to show them, hey, that wasn't us. This is a different team. We were banged up. we're healthy now. And it's tough to beat a team twice in a year, like Stanford. They got them really early when they weren't playing their best, and now they're playing really well. So I think it might be a better matchup, that Stanford USC game, but I think the players want Wazoo again.
Yeah, I kind of think so. I think, and the fact that USC was like on the road at Cal, 6 days later had to go on the road to Washington State, who had a 5-game home streak during that time. So it was pretty much ideal situations for Washington State. Obviously not ideal for USC. Now it's the exact opposite. Yeah. USC has the bye week. Like they're like at the beach right now if they want to. It's really warm. And Wazoo's got to go on the road. It's not as far, but Seattle. It's in-state game, so similar to what USC did with Cal, to take on Washington, where they're I think a 9-point underdog in that game, which is kind of baffling to me. But so if they're able to win that game, I mean, obviously all of their eggs are in that basket of winning that game.
Sure.
Now you got to like turn around, come back, and then in 6 days rest, go play, which is going to be a really important game that you're not even going to be thinking about. USC, who's rested, so it's kind of the exact opposite. So, and the Pac-12 has scheduled these games. No teams won these games when they've scheduled the last couple of years. So I think it gives USC a great chance to beat a team like that. Where Stanford, they can just drive. It's not going to be as
right up the road. And again, they play that physical style that USC kind of has trouble with. But they had them week 2. They got them. But I think Shaw would have something up his sleeve to throw at them that they haven't seen before. And like I said, that would probably be the better matchup, a closer game. But I think they want Wazoo.
I think so too, and Wazoo's got that kind of fast front that really gave USC fits. Hercules Mataafa, I mean, that guy was like
playing out of his mind.
Out of his mind. So I think you'd like another shot at him where you want to lean on those guys. They're little, like you're bigger dudes. You want to lean on them, and that didn't happen. So that's got to be on the USC side. We're like, hey, we got to change the narrative here. Can't let the little quick guys outrun us. We have to just pound on them.
Yeah, and I don't think you want to face Bryce Love twice. I mean, USC kind of got the better of him that first week. He had that big run, but, Heisman contender right now.
Yeah.
Playing really, really well. I think the USC defensive front's a little bit, they haven't been playing that well lately. We saw that against UCLA. Couldn't really get to Josh all that much, but how are you going to stop that guy?
Right.
You need to bring your best game to stop Love.
I think he had like 166 yards or something against USC the last time, but they kind of held him in check. Like that was the best like anyone had done against him.
You'll take 166 yards with Love.
With like one touchdown or something. He's been banged up. He came out of the last game with an ankle. I still think he's going to play in this week against Notre Dame. And the good thing for USC is look at the two opponents. Stanford's got to play Notre Dame, and Wazoo's got to play Washington. I mean, these are like maybe the hardest teams on their schedule on short rest playing USC. So all the crap that it was for USC was kind of dealt with all year. You hope they take advantage. That's the problem, though, is you hope they take advantage of the bye week. Are they going to do what they should be doing during the bye week? And maybe what they should be doing is just resting. I mean, it's hard to say.
I mean, I think it's rest. I think that's the most important thing. I mean, you can't really game plan. I mean, you got these two teams, you don't know what's coming up. But I think rest is number one on their priority. And
I think for the coaches, they have to kind of look back and like, okay, it's been week, play. There's a lot of things that look fixable. There are a lot of problems that look like they could fix on their own. So for the coaches, they're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Look at the secondary. They got to do some different stuff, right? And so maybe the coaches can kind of get together and figure out a different game plan going into this. Because there seems like there's a lot of fixable mistakes.
Yeah, that's number one. Injuries, secondary.
Yeah.
I think that's my priority list right now for USC.
So Chris did a cool piece. We've got a partnership with Pro Football Focus now, and he pulled up a bunch of the numbers, like the top 5 the top 10 offensive, defensive players.
And the bottom 5 for those. Offense and defense.
Were you did anything surprise you? Like you can go check it out on USCFootball.com now, but any of the numbers kind of surprise you or anything? Or?
I mean, Jack Jones had 2 really rough weeks. 2 weeks in a row, he's graded out as the worst defender for USC. I mean, he's going against some good players, and he's a little bit of funk right now after playing, really, really well. Shout out to Chris Hawkins. He graded out NFL grade 88.1.
Yeah.
He was their best defender. I think the tape shows that. He was excellent in run defense. Posted a really good grade in coverage. I know people were kind of hard on the offensive line. But they didn't actually grade out that bad
Yeah.
in run blocking. And Toa Lobanon was the number 3 offensive tackle in the country for week 3.
Pretty good, yeah.
Not bad. Shannon Nwosu had a really good game, senior game in the Coliseum. He posted an NFL grade at 87.8. Stuff that jumped out to me, a lot of the cornerbacks actually graded out pretty decently, considering they gave up all those yardage against Josh Rosen. But other than that, and the defensive line did not grade out really well.
No.
Some poor grades all across the board, except for Chenna.
I'm going to do a piece like kind of on the secondary in general, and it's funny. I just pull up. There's a lot of stats we can pull up, and I just pulled up like the corners, and there's red, which is bad, and Jack and Iman Marshall are both down there in the red. Janie Harris actually grades pretty well. Now he's like more of a nickel, but it's I'm going to break it down by game and stuff, but it's. There's been, I think the cornerbacks at USC are asked to do a lot more than some of the other places. They're on an island a lot. I had a question on the podcast about the scheme. Are they changing the scheme? Clancy does what he does. Like, he's not changing his scheme. He's going to put dudes on an island, and he's not going to take Jack Jones out for a walk-on. Like, there's just not a lot of options. He's going to keep doing the same things. But I think what people need to understand is they are asking these guys to do a lot.
Yeah, and especially going up against maybe the number 1 overall draft pick.
Yeah.
And Josh Rosen. I mean, he was making some throws on Saturday.
He made some dude throws. Like he's got, like, I know if you're a USC fan, you're like, it doesn't matter. Both these guys are going to get drafted, Sam and Josh, but Rosen can throw. So, I mean, he's more of an NFL, like typical NFL dude.
Prototypical.
Yeah.
Like if you're creating him in a lab, he's what's coming out.
And he can throw some, and then people are like, oh, he does this, he does that. It's like, I think a lot of USC fans don't want to admit that he's good. He's good, okay? He's good. Sam's good. Like, they're both really good, so. Well, let's see if we got any kind of comments and stuff. Hopefully these all come through. So we had Art say, Washington Huskies played Little Sisters of the Poor all year long. Hashtag Pac-12. And happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. So we normally do this. I should have mentioned this at the top. We normally do this on a Thursday.
Right.
But Thursday's Thanksgiving. Did you ask me?
I suggested we do it live from your Thanksgiving. I don't know what you're doing, but we can all come.
I'm deep frying turkeys, man.
We could each have a drumstick and just.
Yeah, that would be good. I would like that. Blitzer Dan, USC shouldn't have struggled like that against SC. I'm not sure what he means by that. Maybe he means UCLA. First time watching them, UCLA had chances to beat SC. SC gives up the deep ball too many times. Do you agree?
I agree with him that UCLA could have walked out of the Coliseum with a win.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we all know, like we just talked about Rosen, he's one of the better deep ball throwers in the country in the Pac-12. And USC's secondary, gave up a lot of yards. But it was bend, don't break, though. That was what the difference was. They came up with that strip sack fumble in the red zone, and they came up with that Marvell Tell pick in the end zone, too, to keep them at least 14 points off the board. So bend, don't break was the difference here.
And what I like, and people like, what I like about Clancy Pendergast's scheme is he does force negative plays. They get a lot of sacks. I think when Justin Wilcox was here before, they gave up a lot of these big plays, but they weren't forcing the negative plays. So they give up big plays, but they're forcing a lot on the negative side. Sure. And they put teams in 3rd and long situations. And sometimes you give it up or whatever, but at least there's a plan and a scheme. And I get what he's doing. Some people don't agree with it, but I do like that he's kind of putting these athletes in a position to force some negative plays, because I think that can take you a long way in college football when you do that.
Right. I mean, there was that streak going up to the Notre Dame game where they were so good at stopping teams after the offense had turned the ball over. They were keeping them out of the end zone. And they were playing really, really well, and then the Notre Dame game kind of flipped it. But that's exactly what you're talking about. They come up with the negative plays, and they come up with the stops when they need to.
Yeah, that's a great point, that this defense has bailed out the offense when they were turning the ball over earlier in the year. So that was a huge thing. Dustin says, chances Darnold goes to the pros. He's rated high, but needs to improve on stuff. My opinion, he's a winner, too. Take that into consideration. Do you kind of have a thought on if Darnold would go pro or not?
Well, as we know, many people made a point of it. There was, 20 NFL scouts at the game.
20 teams represented, so there could have been
they
more
were
than
just like 2 seats down from me. And, I would sometimes, after each guy would make a play, I'd lean over and just see what kind of they were reacting. And that one Darnold throw in the final drive before halftime where he kind of avoided pressure and then kind of threw it on the sideline to Burnett. The sideline, and I tweeted about this, how all the scouts kind of turned to each other and were like, wow. And then he had the run at the end that kind of like, oh, he wasted the time. But I don't really, no one knows what he's doing right now. I think he could use another year, as this season has showed. But the point is, people that are evaluating him, like the scouts, some of them just love him.
Yeah.
And that's going to, it doesn't matter if you think he should come back or the media thinks he should come back. If the scouts say, hey, you got all this potential, we want to take you number 1 or number 3 or whatever, I think that's going to be the difference. I think if you're projected to go number 1, you can't turn that down.
Right. I think so. My gut is now, I kind of felt that he was going to leave. I'm leaning more towards he might stay now, but
yeah.
A lot changes once, the grades and all that kind of stuff comes out. We'll see. But I don't know. But it could go either. I don't think he's made up his mind. And the people that are saying like, oh, he's definitely going to do this, I don't think they know what the heck they're talking about. So.
I mean, we kind of asked him after the game if he did anything special, this being possibly his last game in the Coliseum, and he was like, nope.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything. I don't know if he was telling the truth, but
yeah,
he was just kind of, nope.
I think a lot of the guys probably shouldn't come out, but at USC, there's just been a tradition of guys coming out where they shouldn't either. Not saying Sam shouldn't. If he's going to be a top pick, he should. But there's other guys that are like, probably shouldn't be coming out, but they might anyway. Speaking of which, Jeff wants to know, you think Porter Gustin will be back for the bowl? I'm sorry, he wants to know if he'll be back for the bowl game, not for next year. We could talk about that too, but
now the Pac-12 championship or whatever bowl they get.
We could either one. What do you think about either one?
I think he's going to play against whoever they play in the Pac-12 title.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah. I saw him after the game. He was still in that giant boot or whatever. So it's hard to get a read on him, but just the competitiveness that guy has, I think he's going to try to suit it up. He'll have 2 weeks more to get ready, so I think he plays.
All right. We'll check it out there. Yeah, I kind of think so too. He's probably come back too early twice this year.
Yep.
So maybe if it's close, they don't do it. But by the bowl game, I think he would be okay, at least. Roshina said, been getting UCLA coaches fired for over 20 plus years. True. Actually, the last 3 UCLA head coaches have been fired within 48 hours of losing to UCLA. You losing to USC.
I think Keely tweeted.
Keely tweeted that out. I thought that was funny.
Great stat.
And Joe Toledo, the previous coach, he got fired. He got fired after losing to USC, but they made the Pac-12 Championship game by default because USC couldn't go because of the sanctions. And so they lost to Washington State, and then he got fired after that. So it was like, it wasn't 48 hours, but.
Just quick sidebar. Were you surprised?
That Mora got fired? Yeah, I was. I talked to David Woods from Bro about this. We didn't think it was going to happen. So what David told me was that they basically were having a meeting with Dan Guerrero that they were going to, okay, you're going to resign after the season. And Jim Mora didn't take it all that well. And there was, I guess it got a little heated, and he got fired on the spot. So It was going to happen, but I just didn't expect. They played pretty well. They didn't play.
They didn't get blown out.
Yeah.
Could have won.
I mean, they made a lot of mistakes.
Sure.
Both teams made a lot of mistakes. So it was like neither team wanted to win. But just the way it went down like that, it was, it was a 5-point game. They could have easily won. Yeah, I was kind of shocked. But it shows UCLA is serious. Like, they're willing to somehow figure out a $12 million buyout, which I don't think USC would do at this point. I mean, it's like, no way. And if they get Chip Kelly, I don't know what you think. I've talked about this before. I think he's a home run, and I think that's a dude that should worry the crap out of USC coaches and fans and everything. Like, he's a dude that can change the landscape in college football.
I agree 100%. I think USC fans should be worried if Chip comes back to the Pac-12.
Yeah, especially at UCLA. Like Arizona State, maybe not as impactful because it's not as direct, but if it's at UCLA and in your town. Now, Dan Weber doesn't think he's going to be a good college coach, doesn't think he's good anymore. But if you look at Scott Frost, he's running Chip stuff and doing really well.
He's a high head coach candidate or to get plucked somewhere,
yeah. So he's still doing Chip stuff, and he's not Chip, so Chip is Chip. And I think it's like Harbaugh. Like, even you make your team relevant. And if UCLA can somehow get Chip Kelly, they become more relevant. Ryan says, not me, different Ryan, why did USC wait until the end of the regular season to have a bye week. Well, it wasn't USC's choice, Ryan. Had they chose earlier in the middle of the week, maybe we could have avoided many injuries, or it means the middle of the year. So yeah, the Pac-12 creates the schedules. Now USC has an option to like kind of push back a little. I don't think USC's pushed back all that much, which you could argue that like USC should have pushed back more on the no bye week. But they didn't pick that. You know.
Obviously, like we talked about earlier, it's so hard to do 12 games in a row.
Yeah.
And I think if they had gotten a bye week somewhere, maybe after that Washington State game, maybe before that, then this team looks a little bit different.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yes, for sure. Jake, how did Sam Darnold grade out against UCLA? Did you see his grades, or
yeah,
do you remember?
I have his grade. It was an 80. Hold on.
So it was good. It was
good. It was
yeah.
it was like flirting with NFL grade. It was a green grade, which means it's very good. So he was number 2, I think, overall for USC's top 10.
So yeah,
he had a good grade.
It was he's good. Like it's not like Gilbert. Hopefully we stocked up on defensive recruiting class coming up. We really need to get a pass rush. Any information on that? Well, Gilbert, USC leads the nation in like sacks. So like
there's a pass rush there.
It's not like they don't have a pass rush. So I know that they do sack the quarterback. So that's part of the thing we talked about. He does force more negative plays. Mm-hmm. That was my biggest criticism with Justin Wilcox, is that they were kind of a lot of soft stuff. And I think you got too many athletes that you got to let them loose every once in a while and make plays. And Clancy's really good at that.
I mean, he lets them do their thing. You know, brings Chris Hawkins, who's really good at blitzing. Marvell Tell's really good when he's playing up in the box. He's got the athletes, and he knows how to use them right now.
I'd like to see Chris Hawkins like blitz percentage. Like when I don't think he blitz a ton, but he seems to get there when he does. You know, like
right. I think he's a great blitzer.
Yeah.
And we've seen that on the board. Like they need to blitz Hawk more. They need to bring Hawk more. I'm sure we can find that stat too with all this data. I'm
sure we can. And Marvell Tell, I think when he's been asked to play up near the line of scrimmage and kind of that rover roll sometimes, he's doing that. But then you see him back in coverage and make that key interception against Rosen. I mean, UCLA turned the ball over twice in the red zone. Like that was the difference. Like besides the punt return, that's a difference in the game. You know. Absolutely,
big plays, defensive step up in the big moments like that, and like we said, that's what that defense has been doing all year.
Yeah, but it's like I love people that are real critical of that. It's like, you know, UCLA scored 23 points. Like the offense should have scored more than that.
And we hadn't seen that in a while, right? Them stepping up like that in the red zone.
Yeah, like it's been
a minute. Like I said, after that Notre Dame game, it kind of flipped a little bit, but it's nice to see them getting back into that habit.
It is, and you know, the key for me, UCLA was giving up over 300 yards on the ground in the game, and you're not telling me that some of these other teams, like, you know, they're running all over UCLA's defense, have better personnel than USC does, and Ronald Jones, and you know. And USC runs for 153 yards. Like, that's the most baffling stat. Like, that's where you should be like, what the heck? You know, how could that be possible?
2 things I want to point out about that. USC did lose Chris Brown. He had the back injury.
True.
Coming into the game, he was USC's number 2 rated run blocker. So that hurt in the second half when they only ran for like 53 yards.
Yeah.
And Chuma Edoga, who was number 1 at run blocking, he posted one of his worst games from a run blocking standpoint.
Yeah.
So you got to look at those 2 kind of factored into USC struggles up front.
All right, good points there. Chris said the OL coach has to go and the DB coach has to go. So he wants, I mean.
I'm not in charge of that. So
yeah, we that's above our pay grade, but we've seen that criticism many times. We've seen people, and I'm very curious to see what happens in the offseason if Clay Helton does make some staff changes, which I think kind of need to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not sure if he will, or if Lynn Swann kind of forces things on.
Like, hey, I mean, he could have the OC job open up. You know, I don't know
yeah.
if you saw those tweets that T was being considered for some head coaching jobs or interviewing, so he might have to make a change and pull a new OC.
Yeah. Jake wants to know, who's a tougher matchup for us now, Wazoo or Stanford. Kind of talking about that. I feel Stanford. Do you feel the same?
I would agree 100%. Stanford has been a bugaboo
Yeah.
for USC, and they got over that hump, but beating them twice in one season is tough.
Yeah, I would think so. And I think David Shaw's a really good coach. He got pushed around in that game. That's not going to sit well with him, so I think it would change. Michael, what's the update on Gustin? Will he play on 12-1? So we don't have an update on him. Chris mentioned that he's seen him walking in a boot, but Chris feels he'll play in the game. So I don't know.
I think we'll see him out there. I don't think it'll be as much as we saw him against ASU, but I think he'll want to play in that game.
Yeah.
I think he'll want to contribute, even if it's for 15 reps. They need to be really conservative with him if he is cleared to play, because they weren't against ASU. He played like double the snaps he was supposed to.
Yeah.
Back in the boot. So.
He was on a pitch count, and they ignored the pitch count, which is just like, why? I don't get that, but they did.
I have a pitch count.
Yeah. Michael Cope, hey Ryan, just win, baby. SC plays a pro-style defense, and really the way the team plays a pro-style. Not to win style, but win games. I'm not sure what you mean there, Michael. Sorry. Proofread your stuff. Now I start reading stuff, and I don't know what the heck you're talking about. John says, SC needs to be more physical, too many injuries. I think it's because they play a lot of younger players. Definitely need to get stronger. Certainly a lot of injuries.
The schedule kind of, like we talked about, if you play 12 weeks, you're going to get banged up.
Yeah.
I think I even had some injuries just being a media reporter. Just my ankle at practice. Things happen.
I needed the bye week too. And I thought, like, I'm not feeling all that well, like I'm a little under the weather, but it's tiring, like just to be in the media doing it. It's kind of nice. Now I'm still doing stuff here, but no, don't want to look at any sympathy. But it's like, you go to practice, going like, I don't have to go to practice this week. That's kind of cool. Jim, what do you think about the job Lane Kiffin's doing at FAU? Do you think he's a serious player for the UCLA job? I think he's doing a great job. I mean, when's the last time they won that conference? And he's winning it going away. And I don't think he's a serious contender for the UCLA job, but he's an amazing Twitter troll, and he's putting his name out there for all kinds of stuff. He's going to get a better, bigger job faster than I thought he would.
Right. But I think he's better at a smaller place.
Yeah.
I think he has more. He'll have more success if he's in scenarios like he is at FAU, and coordinating. I don't know like how it's going to go. His third time around as a head coach at a major program, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, but I think he's doing enough there, and he's clean. I think he's cleaned up some of the stuff. People I've talked to, I think he's matured some. Now he's still going to be him. Like it's not changing his personality, but he'll get a better job faster than I thought. And the fact that he's doing great stuff at FAU. Now he's brought in some like rogue coaches and players that were cast off to other places and stuff, and offered dudes at USC. Kenny Bigelow gets an offer. I think Noah Jefferson. Like a bunch of guys like that. But you got to do stuff like that, and he's made that team relevant. And I think when you're going to bring a head coach in, and your team needs to be relevant, he can do that.
And still offering grade schoolers?
Yeah. Still offering guys that are 10 years old and stuff like that. Jake, do you think Cam Smith or Rasheem Green will declare for the draft? What do you think?
We've kind of talked about Rasheem a little bit, just at practice. I think Rasheem declares.
Yeah.
I really do. I think Cam might come back. If Darnold comes back, Cam is definitely coming back. That's how I feel. I know Cam got a lot of draft love preseason. He's had a good year, but I still think he's the guy that will come back for another year.
Yeah.
But I think Rasheem, he's played through a lot of injuries. He's been so bionic. I don't know. He came back from some knee injuries.
Yeah.
He had knee sprains, and he was back out there. So I think he's had a really good year, and he's a little banged up now, but I think he'll declare.
Yeah. I same thing, and I think Rasheem will have more measurables. Cam is not going to have the same kind of measurables. Like he's not going to run a 4.45.
He's not a combine guy.
No.
Rasheem could very easily be a combine guy.
Yeah, I think so. So, Raymond, what bowl game is USC projected to play after the Pac-12 Championship game? I think
the Fiesta.
If they win, what I've been told is the Fiesta Bowl. If they lose, the Alamo. So it's it's pretty narrow range, you know, and outside of some crazy scenario to get into the college football playoff, which I think is not happening. I've said that a million times, but that's the two. And so the Alamo is on the 28th of December, and the Fiesta this year is on the 30th. So it's a pretty short, I mean, it's tight range for us.
Yeah, and a big jump in bowl prestige right there.
Yes.
I wouldn't, just as me, I would not mind the Alamo Bowl. San Antonio, that's where my family's from.
Oh, okay.
So I could go back down there, hang out. But I know people want the Fiesta Bowl. And Fiesta Bowl would be cool. And I've seen maybe Ohio State as a possible opponent, depending on how.
That would be tough. That would always be like playing in the playoff. Like,
yeah.
The reasons you were saying, like, you don't want to make the playoff, you don't want to get beat really bad, like, playing Ohio State
it could be like a preview to the playoff. If people really want to see how USC would stack up against a playoff caliber team, Ohio State.
Yeah, and plus the Army All-America Bowl, I don't know, we haven't talked about if you're going to go down there or not, but I'm going to be going down and with Gerard, but we'll talk if you.
247 makes a list of who they send.
Okay.
I haven't made it 2 years. I'm hoping year 3.
Well, I'll put a word in for you, but that would be funny because like the Alamo Bowl's the 28th, and you can just kind of stay and cover. I think the players arrive like on the 30th and stuff. So, and you know, family there. This is interesting. Michael? What redshirt sophomores, not including Sam Darnold, will go pro? I don't think there's any.
Yeah.
Who's like redshirt sophomores that are like nothing's coming off the top of my head. Yeah, no, that's not happening.
He's played really well, but he's not going.
Yeah.
He's like the only one I can think off the top of my head right now.
Yeah, I don't really think anybody. Recruiting question from Jake. What do you think are USC's chances of landing Jackson Carman or Amon-Ra St. Brown? Any thoughts, Chris? So Jackson Carman's a big offensive tackle from Ohio.
5-star, top 20 player in the country. Amon-Ra also a 5-star. I think he's the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver in the country. People who don't know, plays at Mater Dei, a USC Pipeline. What are the chances? I think Carman is better than people think. I know he's considered an Ohio State lean, but I think he really likes USC, and he'll get an official. He's going to take an official in December, which I think will be the difference. I think Shotgun's doing a story on Jackson Carman. Yeah,
he went out there and saw him in person.
Yeah, so look out for that story, and that's going to kind of tell you a lot about USC's chances to get him based off Jackson's personality, which kind of fits LA.
Yeah, it does.
And Amon-Ra, you know, his quarterback, JT Daniels, is committed, so USC has a good recruiter right there for him. I know he wants to play right away, and I think he could with the guys they have now. I think he could definitely find a role with his wide receiver unit, and I think they're in good shape with him.
Yeah.
So, better than expected for Jackson. Good place with St. Brown. So,
I think that's fair. Let's go. Ann says, my friend on the sideline, she has a friend on the sideline, said, we have friends on the sideline too, neither of them are here right now, said USC seemed really flat. This seemed to be a normal attitude for this team. Does this reflect the quote-unquote even demeanor of the coach? Was the Stanford game the last time they were energetic and alive? I think they were pretty energetic. Arizona State, like that was that was the bounce back after Notre Dame. So I thought that was good. After the game, and we were down on the field, and I don't know, it just seemed a little. There was a lot of dudes taking pictures with their friends from the other teams and stuff. It wasn't like this hated kind of emotional. Like the families of the players were emotional, but I don't think the players were.
Clay Helton was hugging Darnay Holmes and Jalen Phillips after the game.
Yeah, a couple of 5-star guys that ended up going to UCLA. Yeah,
but they did get pretty hyped on that kicker hit.
Yes,
Reed Bujovic.
Shout
out to almost blowing out the Coliseum.
He did. That was pretty good, and that's not where he got hurt too. Like he got hurt in another play apparently, but that was a huge hit there. This is from Jeff. Team discipline. From play calling to failure to make adjustments as this season progressed to even uniforms and lackluster motivational seems to be a cornerstone of this season's problems. I'm interested in your thoughts about the culture of the team that you observe. I get people writing in that are like worried that why are some of the guys wearing like red leggings over their socks? Why are their jerseys not tucked in? And I don't usually notice that kind of stuff. But some people look at that and say that's part of the discipline problem.
I mean, I think they do have a little bit of a discipline problem. If you look at the last 4 games, they've had at least 8 penalties in the last 4 games. And of their last 3 games, 2 they've had double-digit penalties for over 100 yards. I think they had 11 for 115 against UCLA. So, yeah, I think there's some stuff going on that they need a fix on the field. You can't give up 11 penalties in the Pac-12 Championship and like your odds. Yeah, like your odds to come out of there with the title.
Yeah, there's Pac-12 refs are a problem, but USC's getting a lot of the penalty. I mean, there's a lot of them that are on their own, you know, and
like the Chumadoga personal foul, just shoving the guy in the back.
You can't do that. We had someone write in that was like really pissed at Chumadoga for like he's getting 2 penalties a game, it seems, you know, and it's like that's not, you can't be doing that. I think we could pull up penalties and stuff.
You can. They give penalty discipline ratings, so we should look at those for the whole season and see what's going on there.
We'll do that. Michael says, "Hey guys, the O-line isn't the problem," in all caps. The problem is play calling, in all caps. That's the bugaboo. Yeah, I mean, people like play calling. People just love to say it's play calling, but there's a whole scheme. There's a lot involved. And the problem is that USC was 2 of 10 on 3rd down. They typically have Tyson Helton calling the plays on 3rd down. We've heard maybe different people call plays when they get in the red zone. I don't like that there's like
too many chefs.
Yeah, there's a lot of chefs, and we don't really know. Maybe it's easy for the coaches. You can't place blame, although T. Martin's getting a lot of the blame. I kind of feel like a lot of the, it's not a lot on him, but that's where he's getting the blame.
An unfair share of the blame.
I would say that's fair. Fair, the unfair. Michael says Jack Jones isn't a D1 player. I think that's false. He's definitely, yeah.
Very false.
He's starting for USC.
He's in a slump right now.
Yeah.
But he is absolutely a Division I player.
Eddie, I feel everything starts from practice. What is Helton doing different from Pete Carroll?
I wasn't around during the Carroll year.
Yeah. Well, most people do things different from Pete Carroll. He had his own unique way. I would say there's more padded practices with Pete Carroll. They're more physical. They're higher tempo.
Music?
There was some music, yeah. They preached about making practices harder than games. And people talk about that now. It actually was that way then. There's no, there's a recess period like in practice where we're out there. There's a water break. Yeah. I call it recess. There was no recess when Pete Carroll was, but there's a lot of different things.
A lot more people too, right?
Yeah,
they were open, and
it was open,
and
it brought more energy that there was people there watching. Steven says, "Is Iman Marshall going to the NFL?"
I don't think so. I think he needed I didn't think he needed to be like All-American type potential because he's had 2 years of starting. He's had a lot of tape. He just needed another year of decent to really good tape, and he could have gone and probably been in the top 4 rounds at least.
Yeah.
But he's been injured. He hasn't played that well before he was injured. So I think he needs to come back to improve his draft stock. So I think you'll see him back.
I think so too. I think his plan from the very beginning was to go after 3, but
plans changed.
Plans changed. I think that one has changed. So when Porter Gustin out for the year, we talked about that. We, think he's going to come back for this one. Rich, do you think Ronnie Bradford will be back as coach? So he's the defensive back coach. Do you have any thoughts on that? If he'll be back?
It's tough. It's tough for us to say right now, but I know that Ronnie Bradford's an NFL guy. Sometimes the transition or coming from the NFL to the college level is kind of different. Sometimes it's not always a smooth transition. Maybe he wants to go back to the NFL. I don't really know, but I would think that might be a factor, because it's 2 different levels. You're dealing with different types of players. You're dealing with young kids as opposed to like professionals at that point. So I think maybe you could see something there. Maybe if the NFL comes calling back, I think we could see him going. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying, just speaking out loud right now.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. He's not known as like a great recruiter either, and I think that's part of the issue there. But
And you need that in a college team.
Yeah, I mean, you know. Was Jack Jones in the wrong coverage, or did he just get beat? Pretty much, he just got beat.
Well, which one are you referring to? Because I think he
yeah.
got beat twice.
They said you need to speak up a little bit. Okay. Mike, if when T leaves, what percentage chance do you give Tyson Helton being promoted to OC instead of bringing in another, like, Fish? Or they want to bring in, like, Jed Fish from UCLA?
I've seen that a couple of
What do you think?
I've seen that. I mean, you had mentioned that you think, or it could be a scenario where Swan says, hey, you need to make a change here, bring in somebody with a better pedigree and, like, a well-known name. So I think you could see him maybe pull Fish from UCLA, or maybe pull some other big name. I think he could promote his brother if T left.
Yeah.
But I think the pressure would be to pull in someone with a bigger name, bigger brand that, you know, could do some different things than they've been doing this year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think what Clay would want to do is definitely do that,
Sure.
like promote his brother. And when you're talking, like, the weird thing about, like, Clay Helton was kind of learning from Steve Sarkisian and Lane Kiffin, you know, under those guys. I never felt like they had this offense that was like this. It wasn't like a Chip Kelly offense something they created. It was like, that was like the new offense that was going around, and they were trying to do that. Like, they learned under guys like Norm Chow. It was a very different offense. But I think at least when you're talking about Tyson Helton, when he was at Western Kentucky, you're learning from like Jeff Brom, who's like one of the dudes, like, you know, with these innovative offenses. I think they're trees. They're close to the top of the tree.
Someone
or
from a coaching tree that has its own fingerprint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. So I don't know what kind of offensive coordinator Tyson would be, but at least he was coming from some, like, guru tree, I guess.
Yeah, some, like, a signature offense.
Yeah. Which it seems like what they're kind of running is that. So now he didn't call the plays when he was there, but he was the offensive coordinator. But, you know, I wouldn't, I just don't know enough about, I like Tyson. I think he's a really nice guy.
Great interview.
Yeah, he's great to talk to and stuff. But so I think there would be some potential there because of where he kind of came from. But, you know, there's a lot of very familiar guys around Clay Helton right now, and maybe you need more Deland McCulloughs on the staff that you're not as familiar with because, man, he's come in and just been, like, lights out, right?
Home run hit.
Yeah.
Home run hire. Deland was a perfect example of what you're talking about. Just bring in the best guy for the job. I don't care if you know him or not. Go out and get him. What he was doing up in Indiana, I know a lot of coaches were probably taking notice of that, and some other big program was going to snatch him up, an Ohio State or Michigan or whatever. So props to Helton for pulling a guy who was probably another season from, like, blowing up on the national level. And
sure. I think it's 100% right. I think USC's hiring practices, coaches, ADs, it's always just been who's familiar, you know, former players, whatever it is. And it's like, it's not usually your best pool of candidates. It's, you know, it's someone you know, but they've never done the job before. Like, you've hired so many people that have never done the job before, and you just want them to go out and just go get somebody that's really good at their job. And that's why you got to give Clay Helton credit. He wanted to keep the staff intact, and I get it because there was so much turmoil when he was hired. And when Tommy Robinson left, it was, okay, you got to go get somebody. They didn't get someone that was at Western Kentucky or someone they're familiar with, that coached under his dad, wherever. It was, hey, who's a good running back coach?
Who's the best running back coach in the country?
Yeah.
Let's go get him.
And I don't think you would argue that Deland was the best, but he's potentially that.
Yeah, he was one of the top. He won an award, I think, I'm blanking on the site, but he won an award for one of the top coordinators or position coaches for the Big Ten. So he was recognizable, at least in that conference. And like I said, I think he was just a matter of time before he landed a similar spot at another, like, big program.
And for him, I mean, talking to him, I had him. He was here actually. He was sitting right here. I had him on the podcast like before the season, and was really interesting to talk to him. because he's got 3 or 4 dudes in the NFL right now from Indiana. You know, it's like it's not Auburn, it's not.
It's Jordan Howard starting for the Bears.
Yeah.
And then
Tevin Coleman
now starting for Falcons.
Yeah, because
Freeman's out, but before that, Coleman was a running back, like a lead back.
Yeah.
So he's got a track record, and that's an amazing recruiting tool.
You're like, and that was at Indiana. Like, you're like the 10th best program in the Big Ten or something, right?
And
like,
those guys weren't 5 stars.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
coached them up. Howard was a 2-star. Coleman was a 3-star, I believe. So, guy can coach. Guy can turn a 3-star into a starting NFL running back.
And what you want to see, and one of the conversations we had, I forget who the player was, but he was telling me that there was a dude that they were like fighting for Auburn with, or someone, someone in the SEC, and he, like this close to getting him, and then basically the guy goes there and it's not working out, and he's like, man, I wish I would have come to see you, and like, he's like, now I can do it at USC. I'm not going to lose guys like that. Like, you're at USC, like
running back you.
He's like, they got Heisman's. Like, yeah, I can do whatever I want, So it's, and I love his ball security stuff. Like, if you just YouTube him, that was really neat, like the ball on a string. And for a team at USC turns the ball over a crap load, it's not the running backs. Like, they're not turning the ball over.
Nope. 2 all year. 2 all year, both to Carr.
Yeah. So your true freshman is the only one that's turned the ball over.
You'll take that?
Yeah. So it's pretty good. I mean, that's one like underrated aspect of Ronald Jones. What he was able to do, he's not turning the ball over. Not that he was a turnover machine, but his being the running through trash stuff, him being able to yards after contact, that's going to make him money in the NFL. Dylan McCullough made money for Rojo, like no question.
No question, 100%. Turn that guy into a first-round back.
Yeah.
He was like fringe. What we don't really know. Barkley and all those guys were getting all the attention, and then bam. He's the most underrated running back in the country, I think. And McCullough kind of turned him to a national name right now. Yeah,
so that's what we're talking about. It's like, could you have hired your buddy? Or you go get some guy that's really good, who's made, immense impact, I think, on this team. And maybe you get rid of a couple of guys that were buddies, and you get the best secondary coach in the country. And, like, maybe he makes an immense impact on this team. Like, you just one assistant coach did that. Like, a couple more. I'm not saying who. I don't. I don't advocate people getting. People might move on and all that stuff.
Sidebar: do you think when the running backs do ball security, they should have Sam over
there? I think that's come up a lot. Yeah, like, I mean, no,
can't hurt.
He's unique because he's doing all kinds of special things with the ball, and I get it. Like, you don't want to limit him. You don't want to take some of the stuff that makes him special, but there does get to a point where you're like, okay, it's turning a little bit too much right now. There are a few too many turnovers.
He was a hair away from a fumble against UCLA. Just like his knee hair touched before the ball came out. It was that close.
Jeez. Okay, let's see. I think we got some more questions here. How much difference in game plan do you think there will be when facing Washington State/Stanford for the second time? Yeah, we got a whole bunch. Sorry, I thought we were almost out of questions, and like a whole bunch of scrolls.
All these pop up.
Yeah, sorry. So I might have skipped a few.
So play calling or game planning.
Yeah, you think it'll change at all?
I mean, I think it has to change a little.
Yeah.
I mean, because obviously, if it's Shaw's a great game planner. I know he's probably wants a little bit of vengeance, as is his player. So you got to come with something different.
Yes.
Last time they were able to relatively bottle up Bryce Love. That's going to be, depending on his injuries. But I think that's still got to be your number one task. Contain him as much as you can, and then make Stanford throw the ball.
Yeah.
And for Wazoo was able to run relatively well on USC, mainly because they couldn't tackle.
There was a lot of tackling problems in both those games, I think.
I think your focus should be, again, I mean, you got to get pressure on Falk more. You can't, because the secondary isn't playing that well in terms of, giving up the yardage. So I think you need to fix those problems. You also need to game plan around putting the ball, making Wazoo run the ball and do a better job of stopping them when they run the ball.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very underrated team as far as running the football goes. And like I said earlier, I think you got to be more on the offensive side, just manhandle that front. Like, don't let that small defensive front like cause all kinds of problems. You got to lean on them a little bit, I would say.
And you know, after the break, hopefully you won't have to start 3 freshmen on the offensive line.
Yeah, and that was a huge deal.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was a big problem there. Jake, Tyler Vaughn's emerged against Wazoo, and Pittman emerged against ASU. Who will emerge next at wide receiver, even if it's next year? Joseph Lewis, Velus Jones, or Amon-Ra, perhaps, assuming we get him. Tyler Vaughn didn't emerge in that game. He just wasn't played until that game. Like this, you know, he was emerged. Like we knew he was good. They just didn't play him. So.
I was wondering if we were going to get a Tyler Vaughn's rant at some point.
Yes, Tyler Vaughn's.
Did you pay him to ask
No.
that question?
For Velus Jones, like we've seen him come in all the games. He just hasn't done much. He
was one of my early season predictions. I thought he was going to be a giant playmaker, but that hasn't really happened. I mean, he has the speed. They have packages for him, but none have really worked or been used effectively. I mean, he's got to be the front runner at some point, unless you get Amon-Ra, who's just an incredible wide receiver, one of the best wide receivers I've ever watched. So, but if we're talking about guys that are already on the roster, I would say Velus Jones for his next year.
Yeah, I kind of go with Joseph Lewis. I think he'll break out, but
he's looked a lot faster. I've talked to some people. They say because he came in a little bit heavy.
Yeah.
But now he's lost a lot of weight. Looks faster. I think he could have a really nice little breakout year next year too.
Oscar, what are the chances of getting Norm Chow back as offensive coordinator? 0. Don't even think about that. What is that? Like people just want. He's like 72 years old now or something. Like it's not no. Like no. Just no. Okay. Clay Helton is the first SC coach to win 10-plus games in his first 2 seasons, and we're still not too optimistic with the team's outlook. Did the fan base go through this with Pete Carroll? Since I was around, no. I think they were 6-6 the first year, and then they won the Orange Bowl, and like
with Carson, right?
Yeah, Carson wins the Heisman and stuff. They just looked bad. They were dominating teams, though. That's why. So they had similar records, but they were dominating teams. Now they weren't early. They lost to I think Kansas State and Washington State that year early on, and then went on the run and won everything. I think they were pretty optimistic last year when Clay Helton went on that run, but Pete was doing it in a more dominating fashion, and you could see you could see the difference, like what he was doing. So I think that's probably why. If USC was just, you could have lost to those 2 games and still like crushed the other teams, I think fans would feel better about it. But just they've barely beat these teams, and I think people get mad. I think Braden Ridley Hiles is a baby Adoree Jackson. What are SC's chances at him? Who is he talking about?
The defensive back from Calabasas.
Who went to IMG? What's his name? Bookie Wright. Yeah, yeah. Bookie whatever. I think he's awesome. Like he's just little, and he made a ton of plays at the opening last year. But I think the defensive back coaches want bigger dudes.
Yeah, Bradford's thing is long, lanky, that 6'1", 6'2" kind of guy. I mean, you're right. He does compare a little bit to Adoree Jackson. I know he just decommitted from Nebraska, so he's on the market. He was I believe he came for their camp in the summer. I believe he was like a random appearance.
Bookie Radley, right? Is that right? Okay, yeah. No, I like the dude a lot. Like he's a playmaker.
And he's from the area, so you could get him to come back. I mean, it's not out of the question, but again, yes, USC likes those big corners now.
So maybe that's a late thing. Like if there is some sort of change and they do add, or I don't know. But Michael says the play calling is too predictable. Also, there needs to be more misdirection plays. Blaming the O-line coach is wrong. He's doing a really good job considering the injuries and breaking in young talent. These take time. Michael appears to be a offensive line fan, so all right there. And then Jim says, so you're saying Kiffin spends another year in purgatory? What about the Arizona State job opening or other Power 5 jobs this year for Kiff? Posted by a Tennessee grad, but USC and Kiffin fan, by the way. Thanks for the Facebook venue and your Bill King show appearances. Trader Joe's for life. Jim. Bill King's, I think he does Sirius Satellite Radio, but I go on his show sometimes. He's like a 247 guy. You might have been on the show before, but he's down in Nashville. No, I think he could get a Power 5 this year. Tennessee fans, my wife's a Tennessee fan. They would welcome him back. They hated him.
Really?
They're in such turmoil now that they'd rather have, obviously, they want John Gruden, but they'd rather have, I think he did a good job there his first year. He seems like a different coach.
Do you walk around eggshells with your wife every time Gruden groomers come up?
Groomers? No.
The groomers that don't end with him ending up in Tennessee.
No, I kind of troll her. I love making fun of her. Like, hey, did you hear? Like, yeah, so I'm terrible at that. I troll my own wife about it because she's so passionate about it. Like, she's up at 4 in the morning, like looking at her phone about the groomers. It's got to slow down now. She's so mad. Their athletic director, John Curry, is like in the Bahamas for some like women's basketball tournament or something. And she's like, how can he go to the Bahamas now? So it's pretty.
There's a point though.
Yeah, no, there is a point, but I just like trolling her and stuff. Dawn, fight on Pac-12 Championship game next. It would be nice to get a revenge win versus Washington State. The Cardinal will more likely be the opponent. Yes, a lot of people think, I just kind of think Washington State's going to win that game outright. Like, they're not favorite. Like, for our Pac-12 podcast, I pick Washington State to win it outright, but they're like a 9-point dog.
Is that at home?
It's in Seattle, so, yeah.
How did you last week on your pick?
I was 4-1 last week, and Dave was 2-3, so I crushed him. So I'm only one game behind overall, so it's been good. I've been beating him most every week.
You busted a little slump there, I see.
It was a little slump, yeah. So I got it up on the wall, like our Pac-12 championship, our Pac-12 podcast picks. Go to pac12podcast.com if you want to learn more about the Pac-12. Me, USC dude, and a UCLA guy, David Woods. We banter about everything, and we make fun of the teams we cover and all the other teams. Oregon State, I'm sorry, you're terrible. Bob, the staying balanced, run versus pass, no matter what, makes play calling so predictable. What do you think about balance? Balance has been a key word.
It's a trigger word for some people.
Yes.
I mean, they ran 41 times and then passed for 28 on Saturday, so a little not balance.
Yeah, it was. I think a lot of those came late. Like,
right.
That's part of the problem is too is they seem to balance things up at the end. Early on, I think it was like 29-27, like run to pass, and I think David Woods, my co-host on the Pac-12 podcast, tweeted that. I think it was like USC's ran it 27 times and passed it 25 times. He said, "Fire the entire offensive staff for that ratio."
That was a good quote.
So at the time, 52 plays into the game, it was within 2. And because UCLA is so terrible at the run defense, he's saying that's a criminal offense. Fire all the assistant coaches. So that's someone that covers UCLA was saying, like, you are an idiot for doing this.
And I kind of just run. The whole thing about Ronald Jones is he's a home run hitter. You give him more chances to hit a home run, he's going to hit one. He's going to bust one. That first quarter, he was averaging 6.8 yards per carry.
Yeah.
He was on pace for like 250 yards. And
he was bummed after the game. He didn't pass OJ.
He was a little 8 yards short. 8 yards short.
He was not happy. And so you could have made him happy. Like, it's not that you had to make him happy. You could have made the world, like, if you ran the football, you should have been able to figure out a way to run the football against UCLA, who has the worst run defense in the country.
8 yards.
Yeah. Yeah. Balance for the sake of balance, I don't think it's a strategy. When besides the Cal game did Carr fumble? Do you remember?
His first game back. And he fell on it.
Oh, yeah, okay. So it wasn't a lost fumble. It was
yeah. They've only lost one fumble.
Okay.
The Cal game. And then he fumbled, I think it was Arizona. Or Arizona State. I think it was a home game, Arizona. I think
it was Arizona, yeah.
He fell on it. Yeah,
they put him in for like a 4th down play or something. Like he hadn't played at all. Like some of that stuff is weird too. Gerald, not Gerard. I'd rather have Stanford run than throw the ball after seeing our DBs. And keep in mind, you're going to see KJ Costello now instead of Keller Christ. Michael says 10-2, but only beat one ranked team, and that's where the people are talking about the playoff stuff. It's like, what is their resume? Like people are like, well, they lost it, blah blah blah. They have one ranked win. Like that's the problem. Is like these other teams have a bunch of ranked wins.
And for all the playoff people, win the Pac-12, go to the Fiesta Bowl. You'll get your validation or tail between your legs. You'll get to see USC in a playoff type game.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. Valdez, would you bench Jack Jones? Would you bench him?
I would not bench him.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, he's a really good player in a bit of a slump. You need to get his confidence back, his mojo. I don't know how you go about doing that for a guy like him who plays with a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
So he didn't want to talk.
He's got confidence.
He didn't want to talk after the game. So he's at a low point right now. But I don't know how you fix that with a guy who's like a lot of his game is his confidence.
Yeah. He's got the bravado. There's just not a lot of dudes left that you could play, right?
Dominic Davis. You can play Dominic Davis.
He's like redshirting. Okay, and here's in this question, this is kind of bringing in. Michael wants to know, as the grades come out. Yeah, we posted the grades. We talked about that already. Tito, do you think Jamel Cook will be a breakout player next season on the defensive side? He could have been a breakout player this year. I don't understand. I don't get that at all.
I believe Shotgun says it every time. Guy can't play on special teams.
Yeah. He did. I don't think he dressed in this one, right?
No, he did not dress.
So he wasn't even dressed for the UCLA game. So it's hard to replace like Jack Jones. Like, who would you replace Jack Jones? I would try Jamel Cook, you know.
And that's another. No, you can keep going. Sorry.
No, he's not. But he wasn't even dressed. That's all I was going to say.
I was going to say because losing Lockett was big, and because you could have put Lockett in, Lockett probably maybe would have started out above Langley, and Lockett did really well last year in his brief stretch. So again, injuries, they're thin right there. So I don't think you have anyone else to play there. I don't know what's going on with Jamel Cook. Can't get on the field.
Yeah, they're thin there, so it's hard to replace.
Mm-hmm.
But the Jamel Cook thing is baffling to me. Like, there's something else going on besides his ability to play football. That's all we can summarize from it, I would think. Like, it's something else.
Or he still has pneumonia.
Or yeah. I don't think he has pneumonia, but okay, so we had that. Chuck, why can't SC break into the top 5 of college football? Well, they were there already this year. They started out there. Not going to end up there. I mean, they could end up there. Like last year, like they lost 3 games and they still ended up like number 4 or something, right?
Top, at least, I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but yeah, they ended really high and that could happen again.
Yeah. If they finish 12-2, they'll be a top 5. Just not a playoff team this year. Let's see. Bracket bingo. Off topic. Trojan Soup looks strong. Tough test on Sunday against Texas A&M. Yeah, USC basketball is definitely off topic for. Shotgun talks a lot of basketball, but they got a good win against Vanderbilt, right?
Right.
On the road.
McLaughlin stepping up, senior.
He scored like 9 points in a row in the overtime or something.
Dangerous guy when he's on.
So we'll cover it on USCFootball.com, even though it's not in our name. Shotgun does a really good job of that. They got a good win last year, I think, at Texas A&M.
Yeah,
so this year.
It was a nail biter. I think that was Melton's breakout game.
Okay, yeah.
And I'll be covering the game tomorrow. So.
Oh, you will? Okay. Nice. And then Jake, was Jamel Cook better at safety? I remember him dominating spring game and then switching to corner.
Well, he had that 2 practice stretch. He had that 3 interception practice. And then he had the massive hit the next day. But that was kind of where it was limited, and then he didn't really see much of him. I mean, I've heard it both ways. I think people say, oh, he looks better at corner. Oh, I think he looks better at safety. Oh, he looked better at nickel.
Yeah.
But the problem with the nickel is he's so big, it's so hard for him to cover tiny
like
dudes,
little like shifty
little
corner.
guys.
Yeah, little slot guys.
I think he'd be fine at corner. Huge guy, got the boundary to help him out. Just give him some reps.
Yeah. I kind of like him at safety.
Mm-hmm. And that's what he came in as.
And then it was kind of weird that they moved him to nickel, and then soon after moved him to corner, and you're like, okay, as long as he gets a run, and he should have had a run because they've needed help, and they haven't got it. So I don't know. That's an enigma. It's just some mystery thing. And I'm a big Cook fan. I've been a big Tyler Vaughn's fan. I think Cook can be a really good player for USC, but there's something not quite right there. Then last thing, Douglas, Ryan, thanks for calming down things on the P. I don't know what you, so the peristyle, that's our premium message board. It's a little nutty. We got people called the Sunshine Pumpers and the Doom and Gloomers. Sunshine Pumpers are like Clay Helton's the greatest coach ever. The Doom and Gloomers are he's the worst coach that's ever lived, and then they just fight. So I don't know if you've experienced that before, but it's yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's everywhere. So it's not just the P. It was on the 247 site before we merged into it. It's on Twitter. It's on Facebook.
I'm sure every site has their own little...
There's people that want to discount the 10-2 because they feel Clay Helton shouldn't be the head coach. And it's like, so yeah, there ends up being all this fighting. So I tried to calm people down with a couple of posts. So thanks, Douglas. I did my best. It's not that we can eliminate it all, but we can try. We can try to do that. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's the last one. Oh, Trayvon Sidney was a great cornerback in high school from Michael. Yeah?
I didn't see him in high school.
Yeah, he played. I didn't see a lot of his. I saw mostly him as a receiver, but yeah, I don't think they're moving him at this point. He's kind of those guys. He gets in the game and he makes a catch. Like they only bring him in like a couple plays and he usually gets a catch. So it's kind of funny.
He's really good at one-handed end zone catches, warm-ups. If you want to show, watch Trayvon Sidney. I'm not saying it's on the same level as Stephen Curry's warm-up, crazy shots, but
his are pretty darn good.
Sidney makes some great catches.
At one 7-on-7 tournament, I went and I filmed him for about 3 minutes straight, just making one-handed catches. And like, he might have dropped one in there, but it was like, I put it all together, and you're like, holy crap! Like it was pretty amazing.
Is that all?
I think that's it. Yeah.
I'm disappointed we didn't get any like fun Thanksgiving
Oh,
questions.
now we're getting a couple at the end. Do you think Rojo or Marvell declare for the draft? Rojo, yes. Marvell, what do you think?
Yeah, he's kind of a fringe guy. I could see it, but gut, no.
Yeah, it could happen. Michael, now this is striking where Chris lives. Are Long Beach Poly players overrated? So he's talking about Jack or 8 and 25, Jack Jones and Iman Marshall. I think Long Beach Poly has actually put the most NFL players, like of any high school in the country. Right. They've put the most players in the NFL.
Number one.
So I don't think they're overrated.
I don't think they're overrated. Are they playing really well right now? No.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're not overrated.
Michael wants to know about SC water polo. Sorry, that's way too off topic. I have no idea. And then who should we hope to play in the Fiesta Bowl? This will be the last one, Jake. I don't know. Like ideally, if you want to win, like maybe like a UCF makes it, and Scott Frost leaves for like some other program. So like that's like your best chance to win. I would think that team.
But if you're a guy who's like USC should be in the playoff, you want Ohio State, or Oklahoma, or someone like that, then you can see what USC is really made of.
Right.
So I would hope for a bigger team.
Yes.
Me personally, like I've never seen Ohio State play in person. So
I went out to the Horseshoe like in 2009 or whatever, like Matt Barkley, and they won. It was pretty good. Like it's a great environment. This wouldn't be there obviously, but it was good. Yeah. So your best chance to win, I would guess, like a Scott Frostless UCF team. They probably have the worst athletes, and then you lost your head coach. So, but the best game would be like Chris said, Oklahoma or Ohio State or something.
And I'm sticking to it.
All right, I like it. Okay, so I think we're gonna wrap it up.
Well, I want to ask you two.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
I didn't get.
Sorry, we didn't get to the Thanksgiving.
No one gave.
And now we're getting more questions in. Happy Thanksgiving. Okay.
Pecan pie or pumpkin pie?
It's not really a question. It's pumpkin pie all the way, all the way.
I don't have to storm out of here.
No.
I don't have to storm out.
I'm not like I don't hate like any pie. Probably maybe mincemeat pie, but like pumpkin pie is like one of my favorites. Like pumpkin pie and apple pie, love them.
Okay. And my second question is, favorite side.
Favorite side.
Thanksgiving side.
I love the staples. I've been making when I came here from the East Coast, so when I came to USC, I started cooking Thanksgiving dinner for like all the stragglers, all the like the homeless people or whatever, like the orphans on. But I love doing the turkey, mashed potatoes with gravy. I put corn in the mashed potatoes and mix it all up. And stuffing. I love stuffing. I mean, even if it's like freaking stovetop box stuffing, I love stuffing. I make like more homemade type stuffing, but stuffing, mashed potatoes, and the turkey. Like that's my main staples. How about you? What do you?
I'm a mashed potatoes guy.
Yeah.
When I was younger, and I'm also a big stuffing guy now.
Okay.
Like post-college, Chris, all about the stuffing.
Okay.
I wasn't growing up, but now I've seen the light, and like I'm all about it.
Stuffing's pretty darn awesome. Even like, I don't even do this, but like it could be like just be at home and like you have like stovetop stuffing, just make it like it's so good. Like,
do you just have like a bunch of stovetop stuffing?
No, I don't. I never eat
cabinet?
it. I only eat it at Thanksgiving. And we usually buy like the breadcrumbs and then like make stuffing from that. You saute like onions and stuff. But like just even stovetop I love. Like I just love stuffing. Yeah.
Man himself.
And I do love making the corn and mashing it into my mashed potatoes. And I like making gravy, but it does take a while. And I deep fry turkeys now, so we don't get the drippings, so it's harder to like, for the base of the gravy. I love deep frying the turkey. It's so
that can
good.
be dangerous.
Yeah, if you're an idiot.
Have you ever had an issue?
No, like if you're a moron, like yeah, if you drop a frozen turkey like straight in, you really have to like you hold it up on a hook, and as you lower it, it just starts bubbling. I think I've put it on Facebook Live before, even not this, but like video of it. But you have to lower it slower, and an inch at a time to get in there. And if you put too much oil in there, then it'll kind of. I've done that before. We're like, there's some oil coming over the sides. Like the bird's a little too big. I had too much oil. I'm like, that's probably not good, but whatever. And it's,
see, if you let us do Facebook Live on Thursday, that could have been our opening.
We could have done that.
Just lowering it in while we take questions.
And then once you get it in there, the hardest part is keeping the temperature of the oil like right around between 350 375, because it'll drop once you put the cold bird in there. And if you're turning it up, and then it's like slowly going up and up, and then it'll go too fast. And if you go too far, then you could have some problems. There are definitely problems. You do it outside. You don't do it in your house.
Well,
you don't put a frozen turkey in there. Like that's how people like blow shit up.
So no injuries.
No, not any injuries. Okay. No, I do it like in flip flops sometimes, where you probably shouldn't do, because you get used to. I've been doing it for like 15 years now and stuff. So, cool. All right.
That's all the questions I have.
That's all we got. Thank you so much for tuning in. Chris Trevino. I'm Ryan Abraham. Keely Eure, hope you feel better. Shotgun, hope you're having a great time in Georgia. We do appreciate you tuning into our little show. And happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We'll talk to you next time. I got to move over here to close it off.